This is what happens when drum brakes fail at 80 miles per hour, and why a technology invented in 1900 is still hiding underneath some of the heaviest vehicles on American roads, despite federal regulators finding that nearly 30% of truck crashes involve brake problems. A drum brake is deceptively simple. You press the pedal, hydraulic pressure travels through brake lines, and a pair of curved shoes press outward against the inner surface of a spinning metal bowl. Friction converts your vehicle's kinetic energy into heat. That's it. That's the whole system. When it works fine. But drum brakes have a fatal design flaw baked into their very architecture. They're enclosed. All that heat, all that friction energy, has nowhere to go. When the heat builds up past a critical threshold, the entire system starts to unravel in a chain reaction that can turn a routine highway drive into an unsurvivable catastrophe. Let's walk through exactly what happens, step by step. Under normal braking, your drums reach about 200 degrees Fahrenheit. That's expected, that's manageable. But sustained braking, the kind you'd do rolling down a long mountain grade or trying to slow 80,000 pounds of lumber on a steep highway, pushes temperatures past 600 degrees. At that point, the drum itself begins to warp. The perfectly round friction surface distorts into what engineers call a thermal egg shape. Your brake shoes, which need uniform contact to generate stopping force, now only touch the drum in patches. You feel this as a pulsation through the pedal, a vibration through the steering wheel. That's your first warning. Here's the thing about warnings at 80 miles per hour. You don't have time to process them. As temperatures keep climbing, the friction surfaces of both the shoes and the drum glaze over. They become slick, almost polished. The material that's supposed to grip now does the opposite. This is brake fade, and it's not gradual. It feels like someone cut your brake lines. You push the pedal harder. Nothing. You push it to the floor. Almost nothing. The harder you press, the more heat you generate, and the worse the fade becomes. It's a feedback loop with no exit. Now the drum expands from thermal stress. It's literally growing larger, moving away from the brake shoes. The shoes can't reach it properly anymore. Your wheel cylinder reaches maximum extension, and it's still not enough. You have a brake pedal that goes to the floor and a vehicle that is not slowing down. This is where physics becomes your enemy. If you double your speed, your stopping distance doesn't double. It quadruples. A vehicle that stops in 10 meters at 18 miles per hour needs 40 meters at 36 miles per hour. At 80? You're looking at distances that make your stomach drop. That's with functioning brakes. With glazed, warped, faded drum brakes on an 80,000-pound truck, the word stopping stops being relevant. The next phase is structural failure. Hot spots develop on the drum surface, concentrated points of extreme heat that create stress cracks. These cracks propagate. They grow. In the worst cases, pieces of the drum can fracture and separate entirely. Meanwhile, the extreme heat radiating from the brake assembly can ignite grease, oil, or any combustible material nearby. You'll smell burning first. Then you'll see smoke pouring from the wheel wells. Then potentially fire. This isn't theoretical. This happens on real roads, to real people. April 25, 2019, Interstate 70 near Lakewood, Colorado. A 23-year-old truck driver named Rogel Lazaro Aguilera Medeiros was hauling lumber eastbound down a mountainous stretch of highway. Around 4:30 in the afternoon, his brakes failed. By the time he passed the Genesee exit, he was already speeding. For the next several minutes, his truck accelerated to over 100 miles per hour as he blew past 4 consecutive exits. He crashed into 12 cars and 3 other semi-trailer trucks. Multiple vehicles erupted in flames. 4 people died. Doyle Harrison, 61, William Bailey, 67, Stanley Politano, 69, Miguel Lamas Arellano, just 24 years old. 6 more were hospitalized. Nearly 30 vehicles were affected in total. When you lost your brakes, your mind is blocking, Aguilera Medeiros later said from the Jefferson County Jail. The aftermath tore open a debate that still hasn't been resolved. Aguilera Medeiros was convicted on 40 charges, including 4 counts of vehicular homicide, and sentenced to 110 years in prison. The judge himself, Bruce Jones, said publicly, "If I had the discretion, it would not be my sentence." The ACLU called it grossly excessive. Nearly 5 million people signed a petition demanding clemency. Colorado Governor Jared Polis eventually reduced the sentence to 10 years. Here's what got buried beneath the sentencing outrage. The trucking company, Castellano 3 Trucking LLC, had received 30 safety violations in the 2 years before the crash. The company's owner was later linked to a new business, Volt Trucking LLC, which had its own history of violations involving brakes and brake connections. One attorney put it bluntly, "The driver himself should have never been in that truck. The people who put him in that truck or allowed that truck to be on the road didn't do their job." The systemic problems run far deeper than one company. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration's large truck crash causation study found that nearly 29% of truck crashes are caused by faulty brakes. 22% of all vehicle component failure accidents are brake-related. In a single-day inspection blitz, Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance inspectors checked nearly 5,000 commercial trucks across 37 jurisdictions. Almost 12% had critical brake problems, severe enough to pull them off the road immediately. 1 in 8 trucks, on the road right now, next to your family's car. 95% of truck driver training schools don't even cover runaway truck ramps in their curriculum, nor do they adequately teach engine retarder techniques for controlling speed on mountain descents. Some of the violations found at companies like Castellano included employing drivers who couldn't read English highway signs on a mountain corridor where every warning about steep grades, gear shifts, and emergency ramps is posted only in English. This isn't ancient history either. On November 3, 2025, a truck driver died on Wolf Creek Pass in Colorado when his brakes failed. The Colorado State Patrol reported the semi was traveling at excessive speed with smoke pouring from the brakes. The driver failed to take the runaway truck ramp located 1.5 miles before the crash site. So why do drum brakes still exist? Partly economics. They're cheaper to manufacture and maintain than disc brakes. Partly physics. They have a self-energizing characteristic where the drum's rotation actually pulls the shoes into the friction surface, making them bite harder. This works well for parking brakes and rear axles. In a surprising twist, some modern electric vehicles like the Volkswagen ID i4 use rear drum brakes because they reduce rolling resistance and improve range. The gap in safety is real though. Disc brakes dissipate heat into open air. They maintain consistent performance when wet. They resist fade. Front wheels, which handle 70 to 80% of braking force, almost universally use disc brakes now, and have since Jaguar proved their superiority by winning Le Mans in 1953 with Dunlop-developed disc brakes, outbraking every drum-equipped rival on the circuit. The core problem isn't that drum brakes exist, it's that they're still the primary braking system on vehicles weighing up to 80,000 pounds, driven down mountain grades by undertrained drivers working for companies that treat safety violations as a cost of doing business. CDOT engineer Kevin Brown said it plainly. There will be another accident, another tragic crash if we do nothing. 4 people died on I-70 because a metal bowl got too hot. That's the secret danger of drum brakes. Not that they can fail, but that we already know they will, and the trucks keep rolling anyway.